Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our afternoon sessions of the Elire Strategy Summit. My name is Jordan Future Burmeister. I'm our marketing manager at Elire, and a couple of quick housekeeping items. Just a reminder that each session that we have during the summit does have a separate link. We'll go ahead and place the link for the next session in the chat towards the end of this presentation, but make sure you're keeping an eye out at that Elire session catalog and make sure you're registered for all of your upcoming sessions. There are going to be a few polls during this presentation that require your participation. Please feel free to answer those and we'll get feedback from our presenters in real time. As a reminder, all attendees have been placed on mute, but feel free to submit any questions that you have throughout the presentation in either the Q&A portal or in the chat function, and Jay and Richard will answer them at the end of the presentation. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Richard Merrill.
Thank you, Jordan, so much, and welcome everybody, as Jordan said, to our afternoon sessions on day one of the Elire Strategy Summit, hashtag Elire Strategy 21. In this session, we're going to be talking to you about improving AP business processes through automation. I'm one of two co-presenters. We'll take a quick minute to introduce ourselves before I go through the agenda. My name is Richard Merrill. I'm a partner with Elire. I have about 25 years experience working with clients to help them transform their business operations, implement and upgrade their technology, and really guide them along that change management journey associated with that. I first probably started working on automating processes and getting paper out of them 15 or 20 years ago. And I can tell you that the technology we were using then is a world apart from the exciting emerging technology that my co-presenter is going to be talking to you about today. And I'll throw it over to him for a quick introduction.
Hi, Richard. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay Chitkara. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, and the CEO at KTech Products. And I'm very excited about this partnership with Elire and been talking to Richard for quite some time. And it's very exciting to combine our energies and synergies together to bring something in front of you, which is the management consulting experience, the project management around it, the business experience, plus the digital transformation, which the KTech Products is focused on. And I personally have 25 years of experience in ERP space, forecasting, consolidation. I have higher education experience as a customer and also as a consultant. I've worked for companies like Oracle, worked with companies like Deloitte, etc. But bringing forward here is the automation type of an experience, and I'm really passionate about automation. My first job in my life was all about automation, so it's in my DNA. Glad to be here, and thank you for attending this call. Back to you, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. And I'll be handing it over to him in a few minutes, but what we'll do is first tell you a little bit about Elire. For those who don't know, Jay will be going through a KTech overview. He'll be spending some time talking about the AP invoice and PO reconciliation automation solution, talking to you about how it works, the architecture behind it, the leveraging a lot of the cool emerging technology. And then, of course, showing you the tool, right? We all want to see it. And he has a great, exciting demo to show you. We'll wrap up with a business case. And of course, taking your questions. But first, on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about Elire for those who may not know us. We were established in 2005, and we're celebrating now over 15 years of business. At the end of the day, we really partner with our clients, helping them efficiently implement, upgrade, optimize all of those software solutions. We really want to help clients get the most out of it and really unlock the potential of that software by providing strategic guidance to them about all the cool new technologies they can take advantage of, ways they can automate their processes. Within Elire, I run a team called Management Advisory Services. We focus on providing a lot of different things, from application roadmaps, which help you pick and choose the right technology for you, to business process improvement and change management. And we all know AP automation has a big opportunity to improve a process, and it has some change implications. And then we also do a lot of work around data analytics and visualization, as well as project management. And we have sessions over today and tomorrow touching on all of these topics. But at Elire, on the next slide, we really think of the AP automation as a continuum. And so, you know, some companies have taken that first initial step, right? Well, maybe they've implemented some basic process improvements, such as rolling out, you know, POs or rolling out email queues, or maybe they've implemented some e-invoicing and they've gotten some efficiencies. We really think you can continue along that journey by implementing some smart bot technology. And a lot of companies may just implement a one-off bot, right? Which moves the needle a little, but we think you can radically move the needle by combining a lot of these technologies together, which is what KTech's going to be talking to you about. And then further along the journey is sort of that single integrated solution. But what we are excited about is we think that what KTech is doing is integrating these bots together in a really cool, exciting way that not only does a lot from a technology point of view, but radically improves the user experience. So we feel that what their technology we're about to show you today can really achieve some pretty outstanding results. And so on the next slide, I'm just going to spend a quick minute on KTech from my perspective before throwing it over to the expert, of course, Jay, and just tell you a little bit about why we've gone into a partnership together. And, you know, Elire and KTech have been talking to each other for quite some time. And we've decided to create this strategic partnership so that we can really work together where they can bring their emerging technology to our client base and combine that with our own knowledge and expertise of these enterprise applications, whether they're on the HCM or the finance side or on the supply chain side. And so by working together and layering on project management, layering on change enablement, we feel that we can really bring these exciting solutions to a wider client base and really taking the benefits, bringing benefits to you from really both sides of our company. And so I really want to throw it over to Jay now, who can tell you more about KTech, of course, and all their exciting products, as well as focusing on AP automation.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. I totally, you know, concur Richard's thoughts over here is that I'm equally excited what Richard was talking about, and we've been talking about for some time now, and how this partnership is going to benefit our customers and also each other, both of the companies. So let me talk about the benefits which which Richard was talking about is the strategic partnership, the benefits which will come out of that, and I'll talk about what KTech product is. So let me switch to that about KTech product. So we are, as you see it in the tagline, we're focused on the innovation, automation, and transformation. We're a company which is totally focused on digital and business transformations. We're partnered with companies like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Abby, which is the leader in the OCR technology, Microsoft Power Automate, and many other partnerships we're going for so that we have a solid network when it comes to the latest cutting edge technologies. And we are creating solutions. We're creating our own products, such as today's topic is going to be AP invoice automation. And then I'll show you some of the other products which we have developed. And there are some other products which are outside of this UiPath and Abby, which we have created in terms of innovation, automation, and transformation. Our mission is our customers' business. How do we change their customers' business digitally through innovation and automation? And I mean that because the customer success is, should be there at the forefront, that what business problem are we trying to solve using technology? There has to be a fusion between the business transformation and the digital transformation. You can't have just a digital transformation and not have the business transformation, right? So a fusion has to be there because technology exists to solve a business problem. And that's why you will see it under the hood that we may be using a lot of tools and technologies, but it is to address the business problem and how do we do it faster. So we have come up with something called rapid deployment methodologies, where we can execute a project where we can complete it a 9 months type of a project in 3 months, in 2 months. So that's where another thing comes in picture is that the ROI to the customer should be realized very soon rather than waiting for 6 months, 9 months, waiting for the results to see. And I'll talk about a little bit about our strategy in the other slides. This is some of our products and services which we have created. We have products in the finance area. For example, in today's topic is going to be AP invoice and PO reconciliation, right? So it's not just invoice intake, but also it has the other combinations like bank reconciliations, the PO closures, PO reconciliations, all of that thing, it takes care of it, includes the invoice disputes. We also have created a product called AR billing automation. So this is for the money when you are trying to get paid, right, instead of paying. So that creates a digital transformation that how you improve, how the customers can improve their the cash which in the bank, so that it helps the business out. We have created another software called Mobile Expense Management and Auditing Automation, which is related to it does the auditing where you can submit the expense under a minute, get paid within 15 minutes. So it is that rapid. Okay. And then we have some products in higher education, in HR, such as onboarding, offboarding. We have also created some softwares in test automation for PeopleSoft, SAP, Workday, Salesforce, and Oracle. By the way, all the products which you see it in front of you, they all come with core connectors. So it is not limited just to a PeopleSoft ERP or Workday Cloud ERP. If you're running on Oracle or if you're running on NetSuite, no matter what your ERP space could be, we have a core connector with that. Okay. We're also into chatbots. These are some of the chatbots which we have created, and also into the infrastructure automation. Again, the list is not limited to these. These are just some of our products which I just wanted to kind of showcase to all of you. Okay. So let's come to the topic of the digital transformation. I believe in that for the successful digital transformation, you have to see what not to do. So this is my this is the opposite of the to-do list. This is not to-do list, right? That what do I need to watch out for? I need to watch out for, do I have an appropriate management buy-in? Am I showing my quick wins, right? Do I have information silos when we are executing the project? Am I into a project where the goals are changing all the time? How's my planning? How's my communication? Do I have a problem there? Because many of the digital transformation fails, unfortunately. If you see it in the market, actually 70%, 80% of the money goes to waste because the digital transformation execution does not get executed properly. So that's one of the things which we have learned over the period of many years of doing this over and over, that what to watch out for, that how do I execute a project which goes live on time, in scope, right, and on budget. So these are three things obviously every project, every portfolio, every program manager looks out for. So and there's a whole strategy behind that why digital transformation fails and what is the roadmap to success, right? The roadmap to success is that, can I create a repeatable, reusable process which I can take from one automation to another automation, right? Can I create that? You may be on, let's say, PeopleSoft, and another 6 months later, you may be switching to a Workday cloud, or you may be switching to an Oracle cloud. Can I use the same technology and just change my core connector and point it to another target system, and how easy it could be? And or as my business changes, how easy can I configure this AP invoice automation? So that's where the customer experience, which Richard was highlighting before, is that the better user experience that comes in picture. So the roadmap to success is the program. How do you execute it? We have a recipe which works in the rapid deployment methodology between 1 month to 3 months. We actually implemented AP invoice automation for under 3 months, and it was about a 9 months type of a project. So let's jump to the topic, which is today's topic, is the AP invoice and PO reconciliation automation solution. So I'll walk through that. So let's consider a business case. The business case could be that every company receives invoices, and these invoices could be coming through emails, fax, mail. It could be hand delivered. It could be even handwritten. right? Because these could be passed from one department to another department. They can come in the shape of a photo image. They can come in the shape of text image. Now, obviously, the business users are going to see that, what type of invoice is it, the large volume which is coming. Sometimes I've seen the invoice comes in a PDF format in the email, and they're printing it, they're taking it to their managers, that what GL coding or what type of a funding code will it go against if that's not clear? Or is this invoice approved? So there are many things in there which makes the process very complex and laborious. And what type of invoice is it? Is it coming from a department manager? Is it coming to a centralized place, like in the AP office, maybe a distribution list, right? So every company could be different. How do we standardize that process? And then the step 4, when the invoice is understood, everybody is, with a lot of email forwards and all, we're inputting that data manually, right? My estimate is if it takes, let's say, 5 minutes per invoice to process, it's going to take about 8,333 hours, right? And that's about, I would say it's about 4 plus FTE type of a work, which we will be spending just on that 100,000 invoices. So if I have to talk about the same thing, that when I'm manually entering it, there could be fat finger mistakes. So we're not talking about the other time which it takes on the invoice disputes, right? We're not talking about the mistakes it could be having when somebody is filling out their data manually. And then the validations. What if the invoice needs to be booked to a different expense code? If it is not clear? What if the invoice does not have a PO number associated with that? What if I have a dispute, or what if I have the supplier maybe owe me some money, or I owe them? So those are some exceptions which we have all the time. And then finally, it goes through the approval and rejection, and then manually somebody initiates a PO closure. Of course, before that, they have to do the PO reconciliation, right? So all of this effort can take anywhere between 4 FTEs, 5, 6. It depends on the organization, how complex their AP invoice process could be, and what's the volume behind that. Okay. Now, if I talk about the manual invoice processing, well, you need that many people, right? Which is prone to errors. You need an army of people, anywhere between 5 minutes to 15 minutes. If you were doing nothing, we're just doing that over and over, right? So with that, I will turn it over to, we have a question for all of you.
Thank you, Jay. So there is a poll active now. Where is your company along the AP automation journey? Is it still a very manual process? Have you implemented basic process improvements in technology? Have you implemented an RPA solution? Or have you implemented a fully integrated solution? We'll give everyone about a minute to answer here. And we'll give everyone about 10 seconds. Then we're going to close it out. Okay, so spread kind of across the board, but it looks like most of you have implemented basic process improvements. Back to you, Jay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody answering that question. It helps us knowing our customer, knowing what the pain points you could be having or the journey you could be on. No matter where you are, we're here to share our experience with all of you. Okay. All right, so far I talked about the pain points, the process where the time it takes, right? That's what I talked about. Well, how does our solution now helps? If I have to take those pieces which I showed before, that all the manual processes, right? Can I automate my invoice intake process? Check. That can be done by the bot. The reading which I was doing from my eyes, which is nothing but my optical character recognition. Now you have a technology which works anywhere between 90% to 100% accuracy, depending on the type of the image or the invoice, or the scribbling, somebody may have done that. So based on that, anywhere between 90% to 100% accuracy. So you have technologies out there that I can extract the data anywhere between that percent. So my first two parts is I can automate that. The third part is the validation, which I was talking about, the invoice disputes, the do I have a PO number? Do I not have a PO number? Which GL coding will it go against? Et cetera, right? Can I automate at least 80%, 90% of the stuff? Obviously, there will be some manual intervention because at some point, something is not going to make sense, and that's going to be a kick out back to the user that we're not finding a PO number associated with this, or we don't have the supplier which is listed on this invoice. There could be n number of those combinations where a manual intervention is needed for the invoices which do not pass the invalidation rules, right? Anyway, so it's going to go through a validation, or it's going to go through an approval or editing process for either by the bot or by the human being, which could be the AP team, or it could be the manager, the departmental manager, right? Now, this can be supplemented by the bot. The editing, approving, rejecting based on the business rules we have, which are configurable, then you can supplement some of the approval, some of the rejection process, even by the bot, which is followed by the PO closure or the reconciliation. Okay.
And then Jay, I just want to jump in there and just stress, and I know you'll be talking about it as well, of course, that the OCR bot doesn't require a pre-formatted or a strictly formatted invoice, right? You don't have to ask your vendors to change the invoice they're sending to you. The bot is smart enough to be able to read that. And when we get into these validation rules, it's not using a 5-day-old version of your vendor master table, right? It's using real-time data coming out of your system. And so the system is validating against that latest and greatest information. That comment you made about a supplier just made me think, if a supplier was created very recently, the system's going to know that and be able to validate against it. So I just wanted to jump in and help.
That is totally right.
Yeah,
that is totally right. Richard, you're spot on. And thank you for jumping in. And so there's a machine learning behind that. If you are adding, let's say you have 400 suppliers and a 401, 402nd comes up, we don't have to create those invoice templates for those, the second one and the third one. Every time if a supplier changes the invoice, you don't have to do that because there's a very good technology behind, there's a lot of good training behind that. How does this, I was actually showing a demo the other day, totally different topic, but this was for student transcripts. And we had not done any training, and about 95% accuracy we had when we were showing it to one of the schools, that how the student transcripts were read by the OCR bots. Okay, so thanks, Richard. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more detail. How does it work? So far we're talking at a very high level, and if I talk about details, my invoices could be. My supplier could be saying, well, I'm not going to send you the invoice. You need to go download those invoices from my website. The bots can do that. The bots can do not just the PDF, but it can also read any other format. It could be an Excel based. It could be a Word document. It could be an XML. So there could be different shapes and sizes of those invoice processes. It could be coming in a website format. The extraction of the data, we can read the header, the line, the PO data, all of that. Now, when it does the validations, it's going to run the validation against the PO. Now, when I mentioned ERP and PeopleSoft systems, many of the companies I've seen, they have not just one system, they have like 2 systems. So their PO could be originating from Salesforce. Or if they're a logistics company, their purchase order could be originating from another system, right? So depending on the company, I've seen that you could have two different ERP systems to track that where the PO number is originating from. So obviously when the invoice is coming in, it needs to look into 2 different systems, right? So we are able to do that. And there will be some which will be a pass that, yes, I find this. And there will be some which are no. That's going to go through an exception, through a kick out. And we have the PO invoice portal UI. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you one of the screenshot of how it looks. And it has an inbuilt, the dashboard, the reporting, and all of that. The AP team will basically correct that at the header level, the line item level. They can also see that whether the PO is going to be reconciled. So it's like a preview. What the ERP workflow is going to do, it's a preview whether you have a line-to-line match, whether you have a header-to-header match, or whether you have a receipt level match or not. Regardless of whatever the, when the data gets corrected, obviously it's going to get validated by the bot one more time. So let's assume that 80% of my cases are a pass-through, right? 20% went through this no. And that goes through the proper validation, and it can come tomorrow, it can come the day after tomorrow, regardless of whatever it is. If my 80% of my daily invoices, so let's say if I'm getting about 100 invoices every day, and 80% of my invoices are going to go through a proper GL coding type of a logic, and it's a clean pass-through, that's going to go through your ERP system. In this case, I have written PeopleSoft, right? It's going to go create that invoice. It can put it on hold based on the business requirement, or it can immediately notify the AP team that I have successfully uploaded these invoices. Do you want to go through a final check or approve before it gets paid? Now that can be totally automated by the bot itself, depending on how you want to configure this solution, right? And as soon as we have a yes, and that's what bot is checking every day, that do I have a verification and approval for this invoice to be paid? And it creates a payment voucher, and then the invoice gets paid at the time. Now it also does the bank reconciliation also when the money leaves the bank, so you can do an end-to-end automation there. And mission accomplished. I see some questions coming in, and thank you very much for typing those questions. I have not seen those yet, but I'm glad to see those coming in, and I will be happy to take those at the end. So thank you very much. Okay. Anything you want to add, Richard, here before I jump to the next slide?
Nope, I think that that really covers it. I think, what we wanted to do is give people sort of the visual understanding of how it works, because when we get into a demo, that doesn't always become crystal clear, right? But we really want to demonstrate that this is really using really cool robotic process automation in a new and interesting way by combining these parts and having them work together, and with the ability to plug and play it with all of your different platforms, which I think is pretty cool and pretty exciting. So you're not just limited to this doesn't just work for one platform. Regardless of the platform you're on, this is going to work for you. So that's really great.
Yeah. One thing is not here on this. You reminded me one more thing, Richard, is that which is not listed here, is that when it comes to adopting the bot technology, we're not just talking PO invoice automation here. If we need to create a kickout, and if that kickout happens, and we need to send an email out to the AP manager, depending on your threshold, that this needs to be looked at, it can send those emails. It can act on behalf of the human being or an AP team or an AP clerk that what needs to be done. It can even create a tickets if a ticket needs to be created, that we have an issue for so-and-so case. So if the AP team is maintaining ticketing system like Jira or ServiceNow or anything, it has that ability to not just upload in PO Invoice Portal UI those kickouts, but also it can create a ticket for that AP team manager or a clerk, whomsoever is responsible for, or maybe the manager, that you have a workflow due item for you to look at it. So very proactive, end-to-end type of an automation. You can further extend it based on how you want to configure this technology. This is the UI, which looks like it has dashboards and reporting, and I have blocked some of the data here I had to redact some of the data because this is some of our customers' data. So in this case, what you're looking at is a Goodyear is the vendor. You can look at it by the departmental managers, this particular report, or you can look at it by whomsoever is assigned to that particular account, right? Or that particular supplier. So you could have a group of AP team members. So let's say if you have 5 and everybody has their own POs or the departments they're looking after, then those are they look at it. And these are drill through reports. So when somebody clicks on the invoice number, it's going to show the header, it's going to show the line item, and they can make the corrections. You also have a third-party system where the PO could be originating from. So in this case, I have listed like Salesforce if that information is available. So, and if the PO needs to be corrected, if the PO number is wrong, so you will see all of that here. And then the aging, how long it's been sitting here that nobody has paid attention to. So it tells you that aging also that we have not paid this invoice for so many days, right? So those type of things you will be able to see in this PO invoice portal where people will be able to maintain it before the data goes into the ERP. So let's talk through the demo after the data verification. So this is the 20% cases I was talking about earlier. Now you can review the whole 100%. I have talked to some of the customers where they want to gain the confidence on what the bots are doing. So it is just a checkbox that you can actually bring all of your 100% data here on this PO invoice portal. You can say that, yep, I approve all of this, and then the bot is going to pick it up whenever you approve it. So it doesn't have to be that 80-20 rule. You can actually bring all of your 100% data right here on this PO invoice portal before the data goes into your ERP space.
And that could be a great part of the change management journey, right, Jay? Where
That's right.
you know, seeing is believing, right? And so pushing even invoices that didn't have any issue into the approval queue and letting folks see, oh, it did read the PO number, right?
That's right.
So I'm monitoring the Q&A in the chat. I do see some questions coming in, so we will be getting to those. Thank you so much for asking them, by the way. And
Yeah.
we'll be getting to those right after the demo.
All right. No, thank you, Richard. Yeah, that will be a great, and that's to, you know, sometimes when a new technology comes, I'll give an example here that if I buy an autonomous car like Tesla, I'm not going to trust it on a day one, right? I'm going to have my hands almost on a steering, and slowly I'm going to get that confidence that when the Tesla starts driving and everything, right? So that's my trust in the bots, right? So if you're adopting a technology like this one, you don't have to put in the fourth gear immediately. You could be in a first gear, second gear, third gear, and then you let it cruise later on as your trust gets built. So it's like in phases also, you can roll it out. So based on how you want to configure it, right? And that's exactly what we did with one of the customers where we automated like 20%. And then later on with the whole, you know, another 60%, another 80%, and then we go full blown. So it doesn't have to be a big bang, you know. The invoice download, the extraction and entry, we're going to show in PeopleSoft, the two-way match, three-way match, the voucher creation, and the reconciliation and PO closure. That's the demo coming in. Okay. So we just actually, we just executed it last night, and we recorded this. So what you're seeing here is that is a inbox for the AP invoice where the invoices are coming in. And then the bots have started running, and you can schedule these bots. They're actually checking that email inbox. Is there any unread email? This is my folder where it's going to go to, and that's my OneDrive type of a folder where the incoming invoice just landed, right? It's going to number that. And it's picking up the OCR that it's saying that invoice has been picked up for processing. It brought that data into that extracted invoices because now I have extracted the data into an Excel file. Now I can take this data and map it and then take it into a SQL table also. And that's where the portal PO invoice UI, which you saw earlier, is built on, right? So, and then once that is done, now I'm actually going into, or the bot is going into ERP. In this case, it's PeopleSoft, and it's creating that invoice very rapidly. So earlier we were talking about, and it handles those warning messages. As you saw that, it can read through those warning messages. It can process that. If it cannot process it, it's going to do a kick out that this invoice was not able to enter it, right? And these are the reasons. These are the screenshots we took, and that creates a ticket for somebody to see it, right? So right now it's just creating that invoice, what you saw earlier, very rapidly. In about under 30 seconds, 15 seconds, it actually creates that depending on how busy that invoice could be, right?
Yep. And the bot is just signed in as a user, right, Jay?
That is right. Now, you know, what it's doing is it's doing that front end automation as if a user is experiencing that. And the beauty of that is that it's going to process through all of these errors and validations what your ERP has. So if you're using SAP, if you're using Workday or Oracle Cloud, it's going to execute your business processes, right? It's going to execute that. So now the invoice has been created. The data has been extracted. What is my next step? I'm going to check my PO. I'm going to see whether do I have a two-way match or I have a three-way match. That's what I'm going to do. So let it go through a process of it's doing a matching line by line. The earlier extract, what you saw that after it has created, so it's doing that matching. So this is an example of a two-way match. Now we're going to go through the receipts and look at whether we have received those goods or not. And we don't have to do a log in, log out every time, by the way, which is what we are showing here. That actually brings the time more, it reduces time further. So right now we're going into those receipts and we're checking for that PO, whether the goods have been received or not. Okay. So there could be an invoice, which could be a two-way match where you're checking one-to-one combination between a PO and an invoice, or you could be doing a three-way match where you're checking with the good receipts. Now, if you have heard about a four-way match, that's another one. Okay. So technically, so what has been done right now is, so far we have shown the invoice creation process, the extraction process, the PO invoice, and the two-way match and the three-way match. Now we're getting ready that everything looks good. We're going to basically create payment vouchers, so for that particular invoice, that this invoice is ready to be paid. Now, this is the step I was talking about, is that you can have the bot do it that this invoice is ready to be paid. So you can have a checkbox that it looks good based on your business configuration, and then this process will be executed. Or you could say that everything where there's a match one-to-one, just go ahead and pay that. And right now it's just creating those distribution lines, which account, which funding, which operating unit, or the combo code, people call it, or chart field of account, it is booking against those. And it's going to do
the bot
that.
is automatically making all of these decisions, right? And obviously this can all be happening in the background. Your users don't have to be staring at the screen and watching, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, this is just a show and tell what it's doing behind the scene. So this could be running it on the server. This could be doing it on a background or on your machine where you could be working on answering your emails, and it's just doing it in a minimized mode. Yeah. Let me forward a little so that you don't have to stare at the screen. I believe it's entering that the last fourth line right now. So we're very close to getting into the reconciliation process after this.
Which is nice, because I think one of the questions in the chat was, can it do what if you have multiple lines on an invoice, and can it match? So hopefully this might be answering that question, but we can certainly make sure it's being answered.
Right. No, very, very good point. So it is interacting through the grid. So right now, what you're looking at is a PeopleSoft, which is a web browser based. When you go to a technology like, or a application like Workday, which is very fluid, or you may have, let's say, ServiceNow. So we have core connectors available for those as well. So whatever it's doing right now in PeopleSoft, it can do the same in Workday or Oracle Cloud. We have those demos as well. Okay, so it's doing another validation check. Do I have a match before I want to close the purchase order? And right now it's going to run a PO reconciliation process. Now here's another thing. If you're familiar with the processes in PeopleSoft, basically what it's doing is it's checking every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds if the process has started running or not. And the moment it's going to go to success, then only it will do that. So it's like as if a human being is doing it, right? Is it running? Is it not running? So that's exactly what it's doing. So that's what the bot is doing. So let me fast forward a little bit. It's almost done, actually. All right, so now PO closure process has been completed successfully, and it's going to do a last validation check if the data is showing properly or not, and it shows PO status is completed, right? So initially you saw the validation, and that's what the, it can run queries, it can check the data on the screen. So whatever an AP person will do, that's exactly what it is doing in front of you. And this is on a normal good case. Now on a negative case where it may fail, it's going to take that particular screenshot that I failed here. I did not have that proper PO number, proper invoice number. I could not create the invoice. So it's going to do all of those error handling as well. And that's what is going to show up in that PO invoice portal UI. Okay. All right, we're ready for next question. Back to you, Jordan.
Thank you, Jay. So the next poll is, what is your current ERP platform? And we know that some organizations may run different platforms across HR, finance, whatnot. So this is a select all that apply. PeopleSoft, Oracle Cloud, other Oracle solutions such as EBS or NetSuite, Workday, SAP, or another ERP solution. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds here. About 10 seconds and we'll close it out. So it looks like you picked the right example, Jay. We do have predominantly PeopleSoft users on the call, but do have a few other applications, it looks like, across the board.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Yep. All right. Well, let's proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, let me share some results, the numbers, and this would be my, I think it's the last slide before we open up for Q&A. The business case is that we've been talking about 100,000 invoice example, right? And about 700 vendors, which come through emails, vendor website, fax, hand delivered. So that type of complexity we had. Now, 50% of these invoices were really complex. And complex meaning it could be 3 pages, it could be multiple invoice in the same PDF. Many times people will just combine 3-4 invoices and they will send you one. There could be an English plus a non-English, so depending on what type of user or company you are, you could be having a translation complexity as well in that. 22% were photo images here, 9% were 3 pages long. What we did was in the automation process, we did the mapping of the APGL coding, the verification, the two-way, three-way match between 2 different enterprise applications, the PO exception reporting, the closure, and also enabling the unused PeopleSoft FSCM workflow features, because many organizations may not know the power of the ERP also. So RPA or OCR are one of those 2 technologies, but there could be another business transformation happening within the PeopleSoft as well, enabling those workflow features which are out of the box if they are not used today. Once we automated that, we basically saved about 8,333 hours on an annual basis and about 4+ FTEs worth of work. Our break-even time for that customer was realized in 3 months. But what we did was we broke the project into multiple projects. From the very first month, actually from the very first week, we started actually documenting in a status report that how many hours were automated on a week-by-week basis so that we could measure it, that by the end of the month, have I automated 1+ FTE worth of work? Have I automated 2+ FTE worth of work by the end of the 1.5 months or two months? So at the end of 3 months, we basically, our mission was accomplished, that we realized the break-even point was realized in the 3 points. So that's the cost-benefit analysis, what we did. And on an annual basis, now it's about 100,000 invoices type of a work has been automated. Agile, the realized ROI on a weekly basis, as you see that, and then the business transformation happened through this process. So one more thing I did not talk about before is we don't believe in automating a bad process. So if the process needs to be changed, then the process has to be, the workflow has to be changed first before we put an automation on it. Otherwise, we're just automating so this gives an opportunity to standardize processes also, which we have not done it because we're always busy. So that's another opportunity we take to do assessments and also do some improvements. And then last question, and then we'll jump into the Q&A.
Thank you, Jay. So last poll question, what processes are you interested in automating or improving? Just a few examples here. And again, you can select all that apply. Accounts payable, which we talked about today, as well as accounts receivable, onboarding and offboarding, expense management, and testing. We'll give about 30 seconds here.
And if you don't see anything on the list, which you saw earlier, please put that in the chat window or in the questions.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and close it out. Looks like, again, not surprising since it's the topic of today, accounts payable, but also lots of other options here, testing, onboarding, offboarding, and expense management. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you. All right, the next slide is question and answer. And
yeah, so Jay, if you want, I can call out some of the questions for you if that makes it.
Yes,
I know you're an old pro at this, of course, but if you don't mind, one of the questions we might have answered, but how does it handle consolidated invoices in which each line is coded to multiple locations and multiple accounts?
Correct. So the question, I think this came in the probably chat window, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So when it has consolidated invoice and each line is coded to multiple location, multiple accounts, so you could do the GL coding at the header to header level or at the line level. So we have that there's a mapping on the PO invoice portal we will provide that what type of an expense item is it. And it could be parts, it could be labors, and it could be location based, like you mentioned, or it could be multiple accounts. So we'll provide that whole mapping of your ERP space in that portal UI that where you'll be able to actually do the expense coding, not just at the header level, but also at the line level. So how does it handle? It handles through the mapping. Through the mapping, which we will define in that PO invoice portal UI at the expense item by expense item, line item. It could be parts based. It could be labor based. It could be type of an invoice. So depending on which rule, how your organization works. So for example, one of the company, they have all of these utilities. So utilities goes into this particular account. If they have consulting services, those go into this account. For departments based, well, I have for IT department, and this is the expense, it's going to go into this particular account. So that mapping basically spells out that the type of the invoice, the type of the expense, the type of the quantity, the department. So there are many combinations over there where you will be doing the mapping. Okay. I hope I answered your question in detail, but we can show a demo later on how that mapping is. Okay.
And there's maybe a related question, but how does the bot look for matching remit address? They have several vendors with varying remit addresses based upon the shipping site. So how does it do that? And then the same person was asking, maybe two questions for one. Does it do a duplicate check? So it's making sure it's not processing an invoice already processed.
Yes, good. That's a very good question. We don't want to pay them twice, right?
Well, they can pay Elire twice. We don't mind that.
Exactly. So let me answer the duplicate check first before I will answer the remit address. We actually had to do for one of the customer, we actually had to do the remit address later on because this was actually missed out in the first part of the requirement, which we had to do that later on. So for the duplicate check, obviously, the invoice number is going to be different, right? So you can go by the vendor's invoice number, what they're giving it to you, if you have that in the reference field, right? But if you don't have that, then obviously you're going to look for other parameters like supplier, the amount, the ship to, bill to. So there will be some other areas that is it the if you receive the invoice in $2,020, is it going to be the same $2,020? So there are some other ways you can check if,
And you can set up a
or
series of those checks, right? So you can make sure it's
exactly.
checking on a few different things.
That's right. And then also, if the PO is expecting, let's say 3 invoices, and you received 4th one, which you were never expecting that. So it depends on how your PO is also created, right? How many invoices are you expecting, in what order, and in how much amount, and by when? So those are other areas where how you can check the duplicate checks.
Yeah, and the question is, how thorough is it, right? So if you're checking on 4 or 5 different parameters, right, and the invoice number looks slightly different in 2, but the amounts are the same and other items are the same, then it can catch that and throw it in the queue, right?
Yep.
So it's just not going to check
Absolutely.
one thing; it's going to check a lot
Yeah.
of things and make an intelligent decision,
Yeah.
or a machine intelligent decision. Yeah.
Yeah. So last point, which you mentioned, is the invoice 123 XYZ 123 or XYZ. So that's where, when you and I look at it, we have that human intelligence built in, that we know that INV-123 and INV-123 is the same thing, right? And that's the artificial intelligence baked in already, that it looks for that similar names also, like we do. And there's a lot of improvement has been made in the AI, and it looks at those. So it's not really critically looking at the exact number, but it also looking at the similar sounding names also, that it means the same thing. And based on your comfortability, you can actually set a parameter that if it is not 100%, do a kick out, so that somebody can look at it. And that's why I was actually telling before that depending on your level of comfortability, that you can actually enable whether you want to pass this invoice or not. Okay.
Yep. And so we have about 3 more minutes before we close out the session, but a couple more questions coming in. So we still want to, and if we don't get an answer to you on this live, we'll follow up afterwards, right? So we do this, that question about the remit address, and then just a few more coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, so remit address, same thing on the, what's on the invoice. Does the bot look for the matching remit address? The answer is yes. We have several vendors with varying remits based on the shipping site. So yes, the bot can, look for the remit address. We had that actually same problem with one of the customers. We actually had to do an extra, one-time type of a Lego block, I call it, that we had to create, which is reusable. So we actually did the whole reconciliation and all the way into the bank also, that how we did the remit address. And we had to read the OCR very differently at that time, And I can actually send you back that particular example with more details. Okay. Because of the time. So the next question is, how well does the bot do reading handwritten invoices? So we have another technology, and I think somebody mentioned about expense management, and there are handwritten tips which we do on receipts, expense receipts. We're able to do all of those handwritten receipt amounts also. Same thing applies on the handwritten. We do some work with the healthcare, where the doctor's prescriptions could be written, or the forms are filled out for the doctors, and they're all written in handwritten. There are some character recognition, our own proprietary algorithms we have created, where the handwritten invoices can be read. Now, one thing I want to call out is, try not to automate 100%. Go after the bulk, go after the main thing. Otherwise, your ROI gets compromised. So if you're getting out of 100,000 invoices, you're getting only 50 of those in handwritten, and it doesn't make sense to automate that. Handle it manually,
Yeah,
rather than trying to automate that. That's what I would say.
And you can always decide to turn it on later, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
So
your
that was
ROI, how fast you want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap up the Q&A. We are promising attendees that we'll end every session about 5 minutes before the top of the hour. So the next slide might have our next session if you want to advance it, Jay. I think it might be on the next slide. But we do have a session coming up in just a few minutes at the top of the hour, focusing on project management, and it's telling a real case study about project management. So please, if you haven't registered for that session, there's still time to register it. And we're going to go ahead and end this session so that folks have a few minutes and can get ready for the next one. So thank you so much, Jay. We sure do appreciate that. The link to the next session is in the chat. And so thank you all so much. We sure do appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for your time.